The Fifth Element is one of the best campy action sci-fi movies of all time. The Fifth Element for the PS1 that is based on that great movie is one of the worst PS1 games I've ever played in my life. And when I say it's based on it, it is based on it very loosely. And that's really strange because this game's cutscenes are actually just snippets from the movie. Like every cutscene is just a little scene from the movie. But then the actual story in-game has nothing to do, or almost never has anything to do with what's actually happening in the movie. Like, remember the time when Corbin Dallas had to break into a science lab and create Lilo like he's the scientist? No, I don't remember that because that never happened in the movie. He's not the scientist that made her. He's a taxi driver and she just fell into his car. Remember that memorable scene in the movie when Corbin was arrested by the police and Lilu broke into the police station to break him out? Do you remember that? Yeah, that was the best scene of the movie. I really loved the action sequences. I mean, if you're gonna completely redo the entire story of The Fifth Element, don't use the cutscenes from the movie. It's just confusing and insane beyond belief. But this is really a minor problem. Don't even worry about what I'm saying right now. The biggest problem in this game is the god-awful controls. Oh my god, you can't do anything. See, you play as both Corbin and Lilu. Lilu is something like a platforming part of the game where she runs around, looks for various key cards and keys, but she still fights. She's basically like Lara Croft if Lara Croft was developed by the creators of Bubsy 3D. She's basically just like Corbin, except she doesn't use weapons. She uses melee fighting, which is just fantastic. Like, she sees a giant-ass robot shooting at her, she runs up to it and just starts fighting it by throwing kick and punch combinations. And by the way, you have to stand perfectly still for kick and punch combinations, because otherwise it's not going to be a combination. It's going to be one really powerful punch or kick that sometimes knocks your opponent down, and you can barely actually destroy enemies with that. Like, you need to do combinations to win, so you have to be standing perfectly still when you're fighting enemies as Lilu. And it's like you never know where to go in the game. It is so confusing. And Corbin Dallas, he's more of a third-person shooter aspect of this game, where he runs around with just the worst control imaginable, just like Lilu, just running into walls, not being able to line yourself up with the enemy, getting killed by the first thing that attacks you in the first ever level, and not being able to do anything about it. I'll give this game credit. Corbin has a lot of really cool guns, but it's never satisfying because you're just standing there and shooting the gun at the enemy, and the enemy is shooting its gun at you. You can kind of get on one knee, and I guess that's a duck, but it's completely useless. Enemies still hit you when you're ducking behind something. Oh, you can also skip to the left and to the right. You know, like Blasto. What is this? Why is Corbin Dallas river dancing? Corbin Dallas also has this supposedly really cool move, much like Max Payne, where he jumps forward and shoots the enemies in mid-air. But it's horrible. It does virtually no damage. All it does is gets you really close up to the enemy, and then the enemy can't miss the second the little jumping roll is over. Like, that's what makes this game so impossible. The enemies are just as stiff as you are, and their punches, kicks, and projectile weapons hurt as much as yours. So this game just becomes a question of numbers. There's one of you, there's a bunch of enemies, you're gonna get killed a shit ton of times in this game. But really, what really sucks about this game is the moving around. I mean, the game's graphics are adequate. I'll accept it. There's a lot of stuff on the screen. The graphics are okay for its time, and there are a lot of levels. I am not going to harp on the graphics. They're fine. But the way you move around, how stiff both Lilu and Corbin Dallas are, it's just unacceptable. And look, Corbin Dallas can be stiff, I guess. I mean, he's not the perfect weapon, but Lilu is! She is supposed to be the perfect fighting machine, and she just stands there right in front of her enemy. I mean, this is boxing 101. You just don't stand there and get hit by everything your enemy throws at you. It's ridiculous. She can do these somersaults to evade the enemy's attacks, but that just gets you away from the enemy. Leeloo needs to be standing near the enemy to actually hit the enemy. The fifth element for the PS1 is not the fifth element. It is the ultimate evil the good guys in the movie were trying to fight. It gets an official Stan Birdman rating of a 3 out of 10. This game is virtually unplayable and there's no fun to have here. Thanks for watching. Goodbye, my friends.